Coco Gauff, Impostor Syndrome and the Reality of Cultural Racism recently, mainstream media is up in arms because Coco Gauff spoke candidly about feelings many have quickly labeled as imposter syndrome. It is an easy headline, a young, elite black athlete questioning whether she belongs at the top. But that label is not only inaccurate, it obscures the real issue. This is not imposter syndrome. It's self denial that results from the struggles of trying to feel a sense of belonging in a white space. Imposter syndrome suggests an internal flaw, the inability to recognize one's own competence. But Goff's position in the world rankings, her performances on the biggest stages, and her consistency all point in one direction: she belongs. So why the doubt? Because what appears to be internal insecurity is, in fact, the internalization of external messaging. And that messaging is shaped by something far more enduring: racism embedded within cultural narratives. Black achievement has historically been questioned, reframed, or diminished within dominant Western culture. Even when excellence is undeniable, it is often accompanied by subtle qualifiers, suggestions that success is conditional, exceptional, or assisted. In today's climate, this dynamic has evolved into the language of DEI. What was designed to address inequality has been recast in some quarters as evidence of lowered standards. The implication is clear. If a black individual succeeds, their success may not be entirely earned. That narrative does not need to be shouted to be effective. It only needs to be present. Over time, it creates a psychological contradiction. You win, you excel, you outperform, but you are still navigating a cultural environment that questions the legitimacy of that success. This is not imposter syndrome. This is what happens when racism operates subtly, persistently, and structurally. The Triple Package, a New York Times bestseller written by Chua and Rubenfeld, argues that success is driven by three traits: a superiority complex, insecurity, and impulse control. It is a persuasive framework, but it assumes that insecurity originates within the individual or their immediate cultural group. What it does not fully account for is externally imposed insecurity, particularly the kind shaped by racialized narratives. For Black high achievers like Gauff, the pressure is not simply to succeed, it is to succeed in a context where that success is constantly scrutinized, questioned, and at times devalued. That is not the same psychological equation. This is precisely the gap addressed in my book. It's not just about grades. It's about culture. Achievement cannot be understood in isolation from the cultural framework that interprets it. Performance alone is not enough. Validation matters. When white culture fails to fully recognize and affirm Black excellence, it creates instability not in ability, but in identity. The individual is left navigating two competing realities: what they know they have achieved, and what the culture suggests that achievement means. Let's look at Gauff's predicament through the lens of critical race theory. To call Gauff's experience imposter syndrome is to misdiagnose the problem. It places responsibility on the individual rather than the uncomfortable environment. A more accurate reading is this: she is navigating an identity tension shaped by racism and sustained by cultural narratives that have yet to fully accept Black excellence without qualification. Coco Gauff does not doubt her ability. She is confronting a world that still, in subtle but significant ways, doubts her right to fully own it.